Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today, we're diving into a true crime story that's so unbelievable, you'll think it's straight out of a Hollywood movie. This is the untold story of America's greatest car thief. Buckle up, because this is a wild ride you won't want to miss. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on chilling stories like this one. Imagine walking down a suburban street, kids playing, neighbors chatting, and there he is, John Doe, waving at you with a friendly smile. He's the guy who always has time for small talk, the one who helps you shovel your driveway in the winter. But what you don't know could fill a movie script. John Doe was no ordinary neighbor. He was America's greatest car thief. You might be picturing a guy in a ski mask, lurking in dark alleys. But no, John was a master of disguise and deception. He didn't just steal any car, he had a taste for the finer things in life. Picture this, a sleek, black Lamborghini disappearing into the night, a vintage Mustang vanishing from a ritzy hotel's valet park, and even a Rolls-Royce Phantom evaporating from a millionaire's mansion. John had a knack for spotting the most luxurious cars and making them his own, if only for a short while. He was a craftsman, a virtuoso in the art of grand theft auto. He didn't smash windows or hot-wire ignitions. He used technology, hacking into car systems with a device that could have come straight out of a spy movie. But what drove him to this life of crime? Was it the thrill, the adrenaline rush of outsmarting the law at every turn? Or was it a darker, more complicated web of financial desperation and a twisted sense of justice against the wealthy elite? John Doe was a paradox, a man who lived two lives. By day, a charming neighbor, and by night, a high-stakes criminal. He was the embodiment of a double life, a man who made us question how well we really know the people living next door. Picture a young boy, no older than 7, sitting on the porch of a modest home in a sleepy, small town. His eyes light up as a car zooms by. That's a '67 Mustang, he exclaims, his voice tinged with awe. This was John Doe, a child whose love for cars was as innocent as it was intense. He wasn't just another kid with a toy car collection. He was a young prodigy who could identify the make, model, and year of any car that passed by his front yard. John's family wasn't wealthy. They lived paycheck to paycheck. His parents noticed his passion but could only afford to fuel it with Hot Wheels and library books about cars. As John grew older, his love for cars remained, but the innocence began to fade. He started to realize that the cars he adored, the machines he dreamed of driving, were far out of his financial reach. It was during his late teens that the transformation began. John started hanging out with a different crowd, people who didn't just admire cars but took them without permission. At first, he was just the lookout, the guy who kept watch while his friends did the dirty work. But as time went on, he realized he was better at it than they were. He had a natural talent, an uncanny ability to understand a car's vulnerabilities. His first solo theft was a turning point. The adrenaline rush was intoxicating, and the line between right and wrong began to blur. John rationalized his actions, telling himself he was taking from those who had too much, a modern-day Robin Hood in a leather jacket and driving gloves. And so, the innocent car enthusiast evolved into something darker, something more complex. John Doe became America's most notorious car thief, a man whose initial love for cars twisted into an insatiable desire to possess them, no matter the cost. Imagine a young man, just 17, heart pounding in his chest as he approaches a '95 Mustang parked in a dimly lit parking lot. This is no ordinary teenager. This is John Doe on the cusp of his first heist. The air is thick with tension, and his palms are sweaty as he grips the Slim Jim he's about to slide down the car window. With a quick flick of his wrist, the lock pops open. He's in. That '95 Mustang was more than just a car to John. It was his initiation into a world of high-stakes crime. The moment he revved the engine and sped off into the night, he crossed a line from which there was no return. The adrenaline was like a drug, and John was hooked. But John wasn't content with just any car. His ambitions were grander. He began to set his sights on luxury models, Porsches, Lamborghinis, Ferraris. Each heist became a carefully orchestrated operation, planned down to the last detail. He studied security systems, learned how to disable alarms, and even picked up some hacking skills to manipulate electronic locks. His audacity knew no bounds. He once stole a Bentley right from a dealership, another time a Maserati from a celebrity's driveway during a high-profile Hollywood party. Each theft was a notch on his belt, a testament to his growing audacity and skill. As the years went by, John's reputation grew. He wasn't just a car thief, he was an artist, a master of his craft. Each stolen car was a masterpiece, each heist a performance, and the world was his stage. But with each audacious theft, the net began to tighten around him. Law enforcement agencies were pooling resources, sharing information, all with one goal in mind: to catch America's greatest car thief. John Doe was not your run-of-the-mill car thief. Oh no, he was a virtuoso, a maestro in a world of petty criminals. His techniques were so advanced, they could be considered an art form. Let's break down some of the jaw-dropping methods he employed. Firstly, hacking. John wasn't just good with a crowbar, he was a wizard with a keyboard. He could hack into the most advanced electronic systems, bypassing state-of-the-art security features like they were child's play. Picture this: John sitting in a dark room, fingers dancing over the keyboard, lines of code scrolling up the screen. A few keystrokes, and voila! He's got access to a car's GPS system, disabling alarms and unlocking doors remotely. But that's not all. John was a master of disguise. He could impersonate vehicle owners so convincingly that he'd walk right into a dealership, ask for a test drive, and simply never return. He had fake IDs, forged documents, and even wore disguises, wigs, glasses, you name it. He was a chameleon, blending into any environment, fooling even the most vigilant security personnel. And let's not forget social engineering. John was a smooth talker, a charmer who could manipulate people into giving him what he wanted. He'd pose as a valet, a mechanic, or even a family member of the car owner, with a smile and a convincing story. He'd get the keys handed to him on a silver platter. But perhaps the most audacious technique was his use of jammers. These devices would intercept the signals from a car owner's remote, allowing him to unlock and start the car as if he had the original key fob. He'd simply wait for the owner to walk away, believing their car was securely locked, only for John to slip in and drive off like a ghost. Each method was a testament to his ingenuity, his audacity, and his sheer brilliance. He was a modern-day outlaw, a Robin Hood of the automotive world, albeit one who kept his spoils. John Doe was no stranger to the adrenaline-pumping, heart-racing moments that come with a life of crime. But what sets him apart were the numerous close calls he had with the law, each more intense than the last, and each adding another layer to his already legendary status. Imagine this: John, behind the wheel of a stolen Lamborghini, flying down the highway at speeds north of 120 miles per hour. In his rearview mirror, the flashing lights of police cars, sirens wailing, closing in fast. But John, ever the skilled driver, would execute maneuvers that would make even a professional stunt driver envious, zigzagging through traffic, taking sharp turns at breakneck speeds, and using his intimate knowledge of the city's backstreets to vanish into the night. Each high-speed chase was like a scene straight out of an action movie, and John was always the star who got away. Then there were the stakeouts. Law enforcement agencies were so desperate to catch him that they'd set up elaborate traps, complete with undercover agents and hidden cameras. They'd stake out luxury car dealerships and private garages, hoping to catch John in the act. But somehow, he always sensed danger. Maybe it was intuition, maybe it was sheer luck. But John would often change his plans at the last minute, leaving the police waiting and watching an empty stage. And let's not forget the times he almost got caught red-handed. Like the time he was in the middle of hot wiring a Porsche in a dimly lit parking lot, only to hear the footsteps of a security guard approaching. With seconds to spare, John would slide under the car, holding his breath as the beam from the guard's flashlight passed inches from his face. Once the coast was clear, he'd finish the job and slip away, leaving everyone none the wiser. These close calls weren't just flukes. They were a testament to John's incredible skill, his razor-sharp instincts, and a little bit of that daredevil luck. Each escape added to his mystique, making him a figure that was as elusive as he was infamous. John Doe's trial was the spectacle of the decade, a media circus that had journalists, legal experts, and the general public buzzing with anticipation. The courtroom was packed to the brim, and outside, news vans and reporters jostled for space, their cameras trained on the courthouse doors, waiting for any sign of the infamous car thief. The prosecution seemed to have an open and shut case. They had mountains of evidence, surveillance footage, fingerprints, even some of the stolen cars themselves, recovered and ready to be presented. The prosecution laid out its case meticulously, painting John as a mastermind criminal who had eluded capture for years. They brought in witnesses, experts in car security systems, and even some of the people whose cars had been stolen by John. It seemed like a slam dunk. But then came the defense, and oh boy, was it one for the books. John's lawyer stood up and presented a defense that left the courtroom in disbelief. They argued that John was actually a Robin Hood figure, stealing from the rich who had insured their luxury cars and could easily replace them. The defense claimed that John had been redistributing these cars to people who needed them but couldn't afford them. They even brought in individuals who testified that they had received cars from John and that these cars had changed their lives for the better. But the real kicker, John's lawyer argued that his client was a car liberator, not a car thief. They claimed that John was freeing these cars from the shackles of their wealthy owners and giving them a second life where they were actually used and appreciated. It was a defense that was as audacious as it was unprecedented. The courtroom was in a state of collective shock. Reporters scrambled to update their stories. Legal experts debated the audacity and the potential effectiveness of such a defense. And the public, well, they couldn't get enough of it. Social media was ablaze with hashtags like #CarLiberator and #JohnDoeTrial. And for a moment, John became something of a folk hero. As you can imagine, the jury had a lot to consider. The prosecution's mountain of evidence versus a defense that was as outlandish as it was compelling. It was a trial that had everything: drama, suspense, and a defendant who was as enigmatic as he was controversial. As we come to the end of this mind-bending tale, we're left with more questions than answers. What drove John Doe to this life of high-stakes crime? Was it the thrill of the chase, the adrenaline rush that comes from outsmarting the law time and time again? Or was it something deeper, perhaps a void in his life that he was desperately trying to fill? And let's not forget the moral ambiguity of it all. Was John a genius, using his extraordinary skills for a form of social justice, as his defense claimed? Or was he just a man so consumed by his own desires that he lost sight of right and wrong? These are questions that may never be answered, but they're questions that will haunt us long after this video ends. Wow, what a roller coaster of emotions, intrigue, and moral dilemmas. Thank you for joining me on this incredible journey through the life of America's most enigmatic car thief. If this story has left you as captivated as it has me, please do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell so you won't miss out on more true crime stories that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew. Until next time, stay safe, stay curious, and keep questioning the world around you, because sometimes the most extraordinary stories are hiding in plain sight.